right? Like you have seen in C programming language, uh, the different kind of operators which were being offered in C programming language have been classified into arithmetic operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, relational operators. In general, these are the possible operators that you find across many of the different programming languages, of course. So under arithmetic operators, you find addition. Addition, generally the symbol being used is plus. Then subtraction, symbol being used minus or hyphen. You call it as on keyboard. When you find multiplication, the asterisk symbol which you find is the multiplication. Then there is a slash you have, right? This is said to be the front slash. There is another slash called backslash, right? The front slash which is being used for division operation, which will give you quotient as the result, right? Then you have mod operator. Mod is very similar to slash. Then there are two dots above and below of the same rather, right? So which is said to be the uh, mod operator. So this mod operator will give you what? Will give you the remainder as the result when the division operation takes place, right? Then you have some shortcut operators like plus equal to. When you say plus equal to, what do you mean by plus equal to? Generally, when you have some operation like a equal to a plus b, means the left hand side operand and the LHS both are equal, and then you can use the shortcut operators a plus equal to b. So when you say a plus equal to b, it is nothing but a equal to a plus b only, right? So the short logical operators, right? You find logical and double ampersand. This you call it as ampersand. When you use double ampersand, you say logical and. This is logical and, right? And the vertical bar, you find pipe, right, on the keyboard. You find on the know, uh, backslash top. If you press shift, backslash top, you will get this vertical bar. So two vertical bars when you right, you say it is logical R. Then exclamation you find, right? This is said to be logical not, right? For negation, you generally use it, right? And then under bitwise operators, you find single ampersand is said to be the and. Single vertical bar is said to be the or. Then you find double greater than. Double greater than is shift right. Okay. And double less than you have, this is said to be shift left. And then exclusive or. Okay. You have XOR, generally you represented with cap here. And relation operators like greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than equal to, double equal to. Right. So these are some of the operations you generally find. Fine. Not equal to as well. Generally, when you are having multiple conditions to be checked, you can use this logical and all kind of thing. For example, you have let us say a greater than b and a greater than c. Both are required to be checked, and when both are true, only then you want to execute the statement. Then you can use logical and, because the table of logical and, if you see, when both are one, only then it is one rather, right? Otherwise, it is zero. Exclusive OR. If you look at the two table of exclusive OR, what do you mean by exclusive operation? A exclusive OR B means A into B complement plus A complement and B, right? This plus is nothing but OR here. Of course, when you say into means it is AND, right? So A and B complement or A complement and B. So when you apply this operation for the different set of values of AB, you can find the result of exclusive OR here, right? You find when both the bits are same, that is 0, 0 or 1, 1, you find the result is 0. when both the bits are different, when it is 0 1 or 1 0, you find 1, right? So this is the result of exclusive or operation. Look at how the operations will carried out. I mean, how the expressions are going to be represented in computer. Generally, when you are uh, executing some operations, if you have multiple operations, then how do you represent? You represent in the mathematical fashion, rather, right? Let us say A equal to B plus D into C by E, like this, right? Fine. So when you have multiple operations, a single statement, okay, then the operations which are required to be carried out is going to be based on the order of precedence, okay? Because when you have a single operation, of course, that is not an issue, right? But when you have multiple operations, what happens? How the order in which the operations have to be carried out? Operations precedence from highest to lowest is given. Parenthesis is given the higher precedence. It means the expressions enclosed in parenthesis to be evaluated first. Then comes the into, divide, not, right? So this was the precedence rule which is set by the language designer for this particular example, right? So the expressions enclosed in parentheses first, then next is into, divide, not, then given plus, minus, ampersand, mod, then given minus, unary, minus. This minus is binary, this minus is unary, right? And then followed by equal, not equal, less than equal, equal to, and then greater than. Then you have, let us say, and operation. Then you have or exclusive or. So from highest to lowest. You can see at one level there are multiple operators also, right? Like in the second level, you can see you have into, divide, not. It means all these are having the equal precedence, but then after the parenthesis. Similarly, in the next level, you can see plus, minus, ampersand, mod. All these operators having the equal precedence, but next to this. But when, let us say in the expression, you have multiple operators with the equal precedence, then what happens? Then associativity rules have to be followed, okay? Then associativity rule has to be followed. And associativity rule is given here. The left associativity rule is given. It means left to right, okay? Means when the operators are available with the equal precedence in the single expression to be evaluated, then you are going to evaluate from left to right. Means whoever comes first after n to be evaluated, you get plus and plus. So out of these two plus, both are having equal precedence. When they are equal, then you go with associativity rule. Left associativity rule is given to you, rather, right? So it means you need to evaluate the first plus, right? So it means here this plus is going to be evaluated. This plus is going to be evaluated on the left operand A, and the right operand whole becomes a value. This whole becomes a value for the right operand for the plus operation, right? So A plus B into C, A plus B into C. So this is the second operation to be evaluated. We have it presented, right? And the next operation left out to be evaluated is only what plus, of course, rather, right? After this has been evaluated, this whole become a value. This whole become a left operand for this plus, and then right operand is D. So what happens now? You can see this whole has become a value for plus as a left operand, and then you have right operand D. So this whole to be evaluated next. So this is the third operation to be evaluated. This is how you have to represent, okay? Showing that which operation are going to be evaluated, from the first onwards, next, and then next onward, right? So there are certain questions are given here. Just note down all these questions. This Jamboard is already shared with you. You can probably see this, slides also. You evaluate all this for your practice. Let us, carry out one of them out of it, rather, right? Which is done here. Let us take one expression A equal to B plus D into C by E. In this case, which one is going to be evaluated first? you have plus into divide. So into divide will have the equal precedence, but then when you go with left associativity rule, into comes first, so D into C will be evaluated first. So that you have represented as first. So a parenthesis as this has been enclosed in a parenthesis, and right parenthesis is represented with 1 to represent that this particular operation is going to be evaluated first. Then the next operation out of it is going to be obviously by. So by is evaluated on this whole and then E. So this whole becomes 2, and then plus next is therefore just to be evaluated, and plus now being operated on left operand B, and this whole has become a value by then, right? So B plus whole, then this is going to be 3. So like this, you evaluate the remaining operations here which are given. Okay, let us look at how the computer basically takes the expression when you give the expression in the infix form. Basically, you give the expressions in the infix form, like how you represent in mathematics, right? Like you have given a plus b minus c into d by, in parentheses you said e minus f plus g. Okay, another expression is given. Okay, but then computer will take this either into prefix form or the postfix form rather, right? So directly taking this infix expression, it will find difficult to identify the operands and operators, because you may have here parentheses and all as well. So it just wants only the operators and the operands. So what it does, it either convert it into prefix form or postfix form. If it is available either in the prefix form or postfix form, it will be easy for to identifying the symbols and then to go ahead with the operation evaluation. So the compiler, the programming language compiler will have certain set of programs. You might be studying in data structures, how to convert infix to prefix or postfix using stacks. Basically, stack it's a stack application, of course, rather, right? So these expressions are going to be evaluated, converted into prefix or postfix. Then they are going to be further evaluated, rather, right? Now let us look at how this expression is going to be converted into prefix or postfix. I'll take one expression here, and then we'll see. Let us say a plus b minus c into d by e minus f, so parenthesis, plus g. Let us say this is an expression given. This is your infix expression. Now we are asked to convert this into, let us say, prefix form. How do you convert? In manual, right? Okay, provided you must have to be given about the precedence rule and the associativity rules. Let us say the same, precedence rule, which we have, discussed before, and the associativity rules are given. Okay, in this you can see into divide not are having the higher precedence. Above it, of course, the parents expressions. Then you have plus, minus, and all after the into divide for the into operation, and the right operand is d. So here, part 3. In part 3, step 3, I am evaluating what? Into. So now this into operation is going to be represented in prefix form. How does it going to be represented in prefix form? First you write the operator into, okay, first you write the operator into then you write what? The left operand. What is the left operand? Which is nothing but part 1. What is part 1? Minus BC. Minus BC. What is the right operand? That is D, right? So Now, this whole has become a value. Part 3, right? Part 3 has become an operand. For whom? For division. So what is the next operator to be evaluated? Obviously by, right? Because the left out operators are plus, by, and plus. So out of this, the higher precedence is by, so by is going to be evaluated. So this is going to be done in the step 4, right? This by is going to be done in the step 4. So in step 4, by is going to be evaluated, and this by is going to be evaluated on which left operand? Part 3. Part 3 is the left operand for it, and part 2 will be its right operand. So what is part 3 here? Into minus BCD. Then what is the right operand for it? Minus EF. Right. So this whole now has become a value. Okay, after the operation is done. Now whatever the left out operators, they are going to be evaluated based on again the precedence. But then if you see, both are having the equal precedence. The left out operators are plus and plus. So both are having the equal is going to be evaluated. So this plus is going to be now operated on A is the left operand for it, and what will be its right operand? The right operand will be 4 for it rather, right? So in step 5, you can see that plus operator is going to be evaluated or applied on left operand A, and the right operand is the entire step 4. What is the entire step 4? You have by into minus BCD minus EF. Okay, now what is a left out operator? Is only F plus, of course, rather, right? So this plus is going to be now carried out. So this plus, I'm showing in next step, that is step 6. So for this particular plus, what is the left operand? This entire part 5. Part 5 will be the left operand, and what is the right operand for it? G, of course. So how do you represent this expression in the prefix form? You first write the operator. Operator is plus. Then the left operand is entire step 5. Entire step 5 is what? Plus A by into minus B C D minus E F, right? Then the right operand. What is the right operand? G, right? So this is your prefix equivalent of the given expression, right? So if you convert any big expression in this stepwise manner by keeping in view of the precedence rules given and then associativity rules given, then you will never do a mistake, right? You will get exactly the correct answer. Okay. So similarly, you can probably convert the same into postfix also. Fine. For postfix, what will you do? For postfix, what will you do? How do you represent postfix expressions? Of course, the same steps vary, but then the way you represent will be different, right? Okay. The first step, that is minus enclosed in parentheses. But if this operation has to be represented in the postfix form, how do you represent in postfix form? First, you write the left operand, then you write the right operand, then you write the operator. See, in prefix you write the operator first. In postfix you write the operator next. It means in prefix you write the operator followed by operands. In postfix you write operands followed by operator. Okay. So in step 2, fine. How do you do that? EF minus. In step 3, into how do you represent? B C minus, then D into rather, right? Yes, sir. Step 4. Step 4, you are carrying what? The division operation. So the division operation is carried out on the left operand. What will be the left operand here for 4? Of course, 3, right? So what is it? BC minus D into, then what is that? You have right operand. Right operand is 2, that is EF minus, and then you write the operator. Okay, so this is how you continue, right? This is how you continue to perform the postfix equivalent of the SIP. So you will get the answer. And in step 5, what is the step 5? You have place operation. So how do you represent place operation here? 5, this place is going to be done on left operand A. Then what is the right operand? Right operand is entire step 4. So what is that step 4? You have BC minus D into EF minus by, and this you perform place. Next step 6, right? So in step 6, you have the left out operator's place. So this place is going to be evaluated on first left operand. Left operand is what? The entire step 5. What is the entire step 5? A, B, C minus D into EF minus by plus. Then right operand is G. So G plus. Okay, this is your postfix equivalent. Got it? So this is how you convert manually, but the same you can get it done with the help of program, because the compiler programs have to take care of this. So you must be writing the programs in data structures to convert this infix to prefix or postfix using stacks. So that the computer will take care of converting the same, and then the evaluation will take place next, right? So this is about the prefix postfix conversion, right? This question which I have discussed rather, right? And now coming to so of course in last class we have discussed a bit about the attribute grammar, static semantic, operational, denotational, and arithmetic semantics, right? Attribute grammars are the additions to the CFGs, right? Additions to CFGs, or we sometimes call it as static semantics, right? Generally, type compatibility, type checking, and all will be taken care by this attribute grammar, and all, right? Then operational semantics. Operational semantics is the way in which a particular statement is required to be executed, or the operation of a particular statement you are going to represent on the machine with the help of operational semantics. For example, let us say, for example, you have a for statement. Okay, in C, how do you write for statement? For followed by parenthesis. You have expression 1 semicolon, expression 2 semicolon, expression 3. Okay, so minimum syntax for in C language is for 2 semicolon enclosed in parenthesis, right? Before first semicolon you will have expression 1, then between 2 semicolon you'll have expression 2, after second semicolon you will have the expression 3, then followed by some set of statement inside the for block, right? So the execution of this, right, how this for statement is going to be executed, the operation of the for, you are representing it with the help of operational semantics. So what is the operational semantics of the for? If you look at the expression 1 which you give is going to be executed first, right? Executed first. Then what happens? This expression 2 will be checked. So expression 2, if it is found to be true, if it is false, then it will go to out. It means the next statement, right? If it is true, generally in computer 0 stands for false, 1 stands for true rather, right? So if expression found to be true, then you will come to the next statement rather, right? Because when expression 2 is false, false is true, it means you go to out, it means next statement. Otherwise, It means the condition is true. If this is false, what do you mean by it? The condition is true. When the condition is true, what happens? You will execute the block. You will execute the block. Then expression 3 will be executed. Okay. And then you go to loop. It means again, what happens? The control will be transferred to this condition. Again, condition will be checked. If this condition is found to be true, again you will be executing the for block. Then you will execute the expression 3. Then again you go to loop. So this way the statements are going to be executed of this particular first statement until the condition is false. When the condition is false, then you will come on to the next statement. So this is the operational semantic of first statement. Similarly, you will have for do, while, and while, probably switch case for all the programming constructs that you write. Okay, for all such statements, there is.
Sir, could you please explain the example once again?
This example?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here you have. I'm taking the similar familiar example because you already worked with this first statement before, right? Generally, you say that I equal to some statement. You give I equal to less than 1, I less than equal to 5. You give, right? I plus, right? Then you have some set of statements. For example, let us say you have sum equal to sum plus I, where sum is initially, let us say 0 before, right? So then you have then you will have the next statement to print, let us say. So you are printing, let us say, the sum value, right? So how does the first statement is going to be executed? See, this I equal to 1 is the expression 1, right? And I less than equal to 5 is the expression 2. I plus plus is the expression 3, right? So the operation semantic of the for, if you look at how is it going to be done, is first the expression 1 going to be executed. Means I equal to 1 will be done, right? I equal to 1, right? Then 1 less than equal to 5 is going to be tested. So if this condition is found to be true, then you will be allowed inside the block, fine. So that is what exactly we are specifying the semantics here. The semantics of the for is specified with the help of this set of statements to the computer, right? Right. So when the condition is found to be true, you will be allowed inside the block where you have some statement to execute, like sum equal to sum plus I. Sum equal to sum plus I means already sum is 0. Sum plus I means 0 plus 1. It becomes 1 here, rather, right? After this, what happens after the set of instructions? You will execute the expression 3. Expression 3 is here I plus plus. What do you mean by I plus plus? I equal to I plus 1. Then I becomes 2 here. Right? Then again, you will test the condition. After expression 3, where you go? Go to the loop again to test the condition, right? The condition will be tested. So when the condition is tested here, 2 less than or equal to 5 is again true. So you'll be again allowed inside the loop. So when you are allowed again inside the loop where you have a statement to be executed, here sum equal to sum plus I. Sum is 1, then sum plus I means 1 plus 2. This whole becomes now 3. Then after that, again you go back to the expression 3 as per the semantic. Expression 3, then go to loop, right? So I plus plus becomes what? I becomes 3 now. Again, the condition is going to be tested. 3 less than equal to 5 is true. Again, you will be allowed inside. Then where sum equal to sum plus, I, which is nothing but 3 plus 3, will become 6 here, right? Then after that, again, go for expression 3. Expression 3, where I plus plus means I becomes 4 here. Then again, the condition will be tested, where 4 is equal to 5 is true. Again, you will be allowed inside because the condition is true. So then what happens? Sum equal to sum plus I means 6 plus 4. That becomes 10 here, right? That becomes 10 here. Then again, you will be, after executing that respective block, you are going for expression 3 as per the syntax, as per the semantics, rather, right? So I plus plus means I becomes 5 here, right? 5 less than equal to 5 is again true. You will be allowed inside. Where sum equal to sum plus I means, this is 10 plus 5 becomes 15 here, right? Then again, the expression 3 will be executed. Then I becomes 6. Now again, you are going to loop with as a condition. Now 6 less than equal to 5 will be false, right? When it is false, right? When equal to 0, it means when false is true, then go to out, right? It means next statement, right? So when this is false, then where are you going? You are going for the next statement. You are coming out of the loop. When you are coming out of the loop, what is the next statement you have after the for will be executed? What is that you have here to print the sum value? So sum value will be printed, right? So sum equal to 15 will be printed, right? Writing this semantics by language designer. So this is also one way of writing. Otherwise, you can use if else also, fine. If else also, giving the point. So this is one way of writing the semantics of the. So the language designer is going to specify the semantics of the statement. But our main motto behind executing this first statement in this order. This is the way we want the first statement to be executed. So the way in which you want that respective statements operations to be carried out is what's said to be the operational semantics. So which is rather required to be specified by the language code, right? It is again a small program, like how the program is. This is a small code, right? It is some small code of program. So operational semantics are going to be specified with some set of code. Okay. Axiomatic semantics. Axiomatic semantics basically based on certain assertions or predicates or rules, I say, right? So, like for example, certain statements you will have some preconditions and postconditions. So the statement is going to be executed only upon those conditions are being met, rather, right? The truthness of the statement will be derived, or the completeness of the statement will be realized only upon the respective pre or post conditions are met. For example, let us say sum equal to 2 into x plus 1. One statement is given. Okay, sum equal to 2 into x plus 1. So here the post condition is given to you, right? Sum is greater than 1. What is the condition given to you? When you execute this particular statement, the sum value must be greater than 1. Must be greater than 1 means it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, or it could be plus infinite, rather, right? Up to infinite, right? When you say greater than 1. So what is the possible precondition with which this particular statement can meet the post condition? Okay, taking the different values for x. If I take x value greater than 10, of course x greater than 10 is also one precondition for this particular statement to meet with its post condition, rather, right? When I take greater than 10 means, let us say 11. If I say 11 here, 2 into 11, 22 plus 1, 23. So sum equal 23, which is of course greater than 1, rather, right? So I can say the preconditions. So here the precondition which I need to take in such a way that when I execute the statement by taking the respective precondition, I should be able to meet the post condition. Okay. Then what is weakest precondition? The weakest precondition is the one with the lowest value or the minimum value of the variables, or you can say the lowest precondition which can let the statement to be executed to meet the post condition is said to be the weakest precondition. So I can say weakest precondition is the lowest precondition which can let the statement to be executed with the post condition being met. For example, x greater than 0, right? X greater than 0 means x can be 1. If I take x equal to 1, what do I get here? 2 into 1 plus 1 is going to be what? 3, which is obviously greater than 3. I can't say greater than or equal to. If I say equal to 0, what happens? This becomes 0, then only one sum becomes 1. But I want sum greater than 1, right? So what is the weakest precondition? I can say x greater than 0. What is the possible preconditions? Anything after 0, if you take, that becomes a possible precondition, right? Similar questions here given in assignment for you to find. compute the weakest precondition for each of the following statement and post condition, right? This is a statement given to you: a equal to 2 into b minus 1 minus 1. A greater than 0 is the post condition. So in order to meet this condition, what could be the precondition if you take to execute this statement will become the precondition, right? Are all possible precondition or any possible precondition, or you can find out the weakest precondition for the same value, right? So similar questions are given here. This kind of questions are also being asked in the final exam. I've taken this all from the question papers only here, right? External question papers. Fine. So this is about the semantics, right? Syntax I have of course discussed in the last class or before class. So these are about the semantics, axiomatic semantics, and the operational semantics. Now let us look at a few more topics. Look at the control statements. I have discussed in the second class a bit, of course. I just take a glance of the same. Control statement basically help you to take the control to move across your program from one part to another part, right? So which helps you to conveniently make use of the control in order to let your instructions to be executed in your required order, right? So some conditional statement under the same, like if else, for, while, do, while, and conditional like break, continue, go to, you say, then you have case control structure. These are some of the control statements. If you look at the operational semantics of the if statement, if followed by condition. If the condition is true, then you will have certain statements to be executed. Begin and end are the blocks, right? Begin is the open brace. Generally, being open brace is being used in C language to represent the block. But whereas in Pascal or Ada and all, we use begin kind of letters, B-I-E-G-I-N, begin is the open for the block, right? And end for the close for block, right? The same in C language, we represent it with open brace and close brace, right? To represent the blocks. Anyway, so here the operational semantics of the statement is when the condition is true, it will execute the block. Otherwise, it will get on to the next statement, right? In if else, if you look at the operational semantics of if else, if the condition is true, then it will execute the if block, right? If the condition is false, automatically it goes to the else block and then execute, right? So when the condition is true, after executing the if block, it doesn't go to the else, it directly comes on to the next statement. When the condition is false, it doesn't go to if block, but it comes to the else and then comes on to the next statement. This is what its operational semantics is. Similarly, if you look at if else if, okay, if condition 1 you have followed by some block, and then else if the condition is true, you have some block to execute, like this. So when you have multiple conditions based on the various conditions, you want to execute various set of blocks to be executed, but only one block at a time, okay, to be executed. You can go for this if else if kind of thing, right? So here, if followed by the condition is going to be checked. If the condition is true, then block 1 is going to be executed. Then none of these conditions are going to be checked. Rather, it comes onto directly the next statement. When the condition 1 is false, only then it get onto the condition 2 to check. If the condition 2 is true, then it executes block 2, and it doesn't look at any of this else, directly comes onto the next statement. This is how the operational semantics of the if else if is being represented. If I remove this else from here, it becomes multiple if statement. If it is multiple if, when the condition 1 is true, after executing block 1, it still condition, it still checks the condition 2, it still checks the condition 3, it still checks the condition 4 as well, though they may not be true as well. Statements but are pre-test loops, right? Whereas do while, if you come to do while, you find there is a small change in it. Okay, if you are completely transforming for into do while, you can have initialization first, then do, then you will have the block being opened to execute the block. Then you have increment or decrement before the termination of the block. And then after you terminate the block, you have while, followed by parenthesis enclosed with testing condition, terminated with a semicolon, then followed by next statement. So here, if you look at the do while operational semantics, it will be like this: first initialization, then do while block, then increment or decrement, then the condition is going to be tested. If the condition is true, again you will go into the loop, right? Again, the do while block is going to be executed, increment, then testing condition. This way, the loop is going to be executed until the condition is false. When the condition is false, you get on to the next statement. So here, if you observe, without checking the condition, you will be entering into the loop. You can see for the first time after initialization, you will be directly entering into the block. You are executing the entire block once, then you test the condition. That's the reason why we call this kind of statements are post-test loops, right? You test the condition post the block, right? Post the loop, right? After you execute the loop, you are testing the condition, right? So this is said to be the post-test loops, right? And break, generally break statement being used to break the loop. Wherever you have a break, for example, in a loop like for, upon some conditions truthness, you want to break the entire loop by skipping the followed iterations. You can do that. For example, you take one example statement equal to 3 double equal to 3, you say break. Well, then what happens here? I equal to I plus 1, I equal to 1 is going to be tested, which is found to be true when the condition is tested with I less than equal to 5, and you are allowed insert sum equal to sum plus I, you have done. Then I equal to 3 is not true, so you will come for the next iteration, I plus plus I becomes 2, 2 less than equal to 5. The next time also sum being accumulated with I is not 3, so you again go for the iteration, I becomes when 3 less than equal to 5. After I been accumulated with 3 and condition you tested with I equal to 3, break means you don't go for the further iteration. Actually, as per the for expression, if you look at how many times that it has to be executed, rather it has to be executed for 5 times, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then upon this condition you are breaking, so further iterations are not being executed. So wherever you want to break, you can simply have a break statement. It's unconditional statement. It just breaks without taking anything into consideration. Take the control out of the particular block, right, whenever it is encountered. For example, continue. Continue is also one kind of unconditional statement. Okay, let us, for example, take this one where you have two variables I and j being initialized with 1, and now let us say I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2. These are the conditions you are testing here. Then you say I plus plus or j plus plus. What will be the output? Tell me what will be the output. You get nothing here. Why? See, when I is 1, j is 1, I less than equal to j is equal to 2 is true. You are allowed inside I equal to j, 1 equal to 1. Continue. When you have continue, what continue does, it from here you directly come for the next iteration. You don't execute the followed statement. So when I equal to j, it means 1 equal to 1. Continue means you automatically comes for the next iteration, rather skipping the followed statement. So printf, this printf statement will not be executed, right? Ij values will not be printed. So rather you directly come on to the next iteration. When I and j will be incremented for the next iteration, both becomes 2 2, and and condition is true, and again found to be true here, right? Because both are equal. Again continue means it doesn't let the control to execute the next statement, rather it allows the next iteration. So when you go for the next iteration, I becomes 3, j becomes 3, both conditions are false, then you come out of the loop, rather, right? So no output you will get, rather, right? So go-to statement, generally basically go-to statement is being used to send the control from one place to another. If you look at the syntax of the go-to specified by label, go-to followed by label, right? Go-to space, then you specify some label. Label could be anything. It could be 20, 30 or some name or anything you can have. So this label could be before the go-to statement or it could be after the go-to statement. So whenever a go-to statement is encountered, fine, it will send the control to that respective label, whether it could be before it or after it, right? So generally, go-to statement are being used before C language for iterative statements also. If you look at COBOL, for statement, in COBOL you don't have for statement. Rather, that for or iterative statements are being implemented in COBOL with the help of go-to itself. If you take, Fortran, even in Fortran, the iterative statements are implemented with the help of go-to statement, right? Case control structure. Switch case. what is the syntax of switch case? You can see the operating semantics of switch case. Switch followed by expression. So this expression must have to be evaluated before switch. The evaluated expression value will be checked across this case. You will have expression values available against every case. So this expression value which has been evaluated before it will be compared against each case. Whichever the expression value get matched, then respective block will be executed. If you doesn't want the remaining blocks to be executed after executing the respective block, you will have the break statement. Switch case generally being implemented with the help of break statement, right? So after executing the block 1, when the expression value get matched, then you don't want the remaining blocks to be executed rather, right? You want to execute the next statement, or you want to come out of it rather. So for which you use the break statement. If I don't use the break statement, what happens? After, let us say, the expression value 1 get matched with the expression that has been evaluated before it, after executing the block 1, it may execute block 2, block 3 as well, right? So I want only, as per the operation semantics of switch case, what is the operation semantics I want? I want only block 1 to be executed when the expression value 1 get matched. When expression value 1 does not get matched, then expression value 2 will be checked, and if it get matched, then block 2 should be executed. If this is not get matched, means if it is not true, then it will be compared with expression value 3. If expression value 3 get matched, then block 3 should be executed, like that and all. This is what my operation semantics I want it for the switch case. So in order to implement that same, I need to have a break statement after every case rather, right? Then you can find there is a default before the termination of the switch. When none of these expression values get matched, automatically the default will be executed. Right, so default should always be at the end. Okay, it's not between or before rather, right? As per the semantics, right? This is all about control statements, which I wanted to discuss. So I have discussed probably I have a few more topics to discuss, but we'll continue in the next class.